by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH. We're located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High, King of the universe, Yehudah. Thanking him for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thanking him for the ability to wake up this morning and breathe and taste and eat and walk and do all of the things that some of us take for granted sometimes that we just think that naturally should happen. Also, thanking the Most High God for all of you who listen, praying that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with each and every one of you, that he will bless you on this day. As this is pre-recorded, so I first want to say Shabbat Shalom to all of you, an early Shabbat Shalom, and I pray that the Most High God will bless your Shabbat day as it has probably at this point begun or is about ready to begin as the sun goes down. So I pray that the Most High God will bless you, bring you a blessing on the Shabbat day, bless you with health, wealth, and all the things desirable in your mind and righteousness. Also giving due respect to the leader and the teacher of our congregation, even Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaskar, praying that the Most High God be with him and his family and his household. Also praying that the Most High God be with all of those who call upon his name, those who are sick, praying that the Most High God will heal them, those who are going through any type of mourning, that the Most High God will heal their spirits and their minds, even in their time of loss. So at this time, without any further ado, we're going to move straight ahead, and I am going to pass it on to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the supreme intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respect to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaskar, to the whole Chief Uzael, to the princes, chiefs, Kohanim, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. This week is actually the fourth, a review of highlighting Shofar team. It's also with the Haftarah, which is the fourth Haftarah of comfort. And within this particular month that we deal with Shalom, like I said before, acronym, which is Anila Dodi Badodi Lee. I am to my beloved is to me. It's a month of preparation, reflection, so this when we're supposed to try to focus on ourselves more so than anybody else in this particular time. What we and if we can, excuse me, rights and wrongs. Last week we are finishing off with this week's Sidra is going to be Shofar team, which means judges, which is a very interesting in the series of trilogies from Re'eh. There are three portions coming from the book of Re'eh, from Re'eh, Shofar team, and then as we go and proceed further on the line, then we're going to key to say. All right, so excuse me, not key to say. Key Tabo. So no, key to say. Excuse me, key to say. We go to key to say. So that's the trilogy. Usually. Deuteronomy usually don't usually have pretty much the whole book, one double sidros that are usually combined normally. But for the most part, it's mostly separate sidros in this particular time. Now, last time we was talking about in reference to the holy days, the Shlosh Regalim. I just wanted to bring out a point here that concerning the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And I just want to bring that out just to bring out a particular point here. All right. So, and as we get further down. So let me just see here. Where was 8? Okay. In the 3rd verse of the 16th chapter, it says, in Deuteronomy 16th chapter, 3rd verse, thou shalt eat no leavened bread. With it 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, therewith even the bread of affliction. For in haste did thou come forth out of the land of Egypt, that thou mayest remember the day when thou comest forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of thy life. And there shall be no leaven seen with thee in all thy borders 7 days. Neither shall any of the flesh which thou sacrificest to the first day at evening remain all night until the morning. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover offering within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, but at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to cause his name to dwell in. There thou shalt sacrifice the Passover offering at evening, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt turn in the morning and go into thy tents. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work therein. Now, one part up here, as we read earlier, it mentioned 7 days eating unleavened bread. And then as we come down to the 8th verse, it says 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread. So I wanted to focus on that because that always become a controversy, not only with the county, but all, counting, as they say, the Oma to the next Chag, which is time of Shavuot, but also we have focused on types and offerings and stuff of that nature. So we had a certain crop, grain, barley harvest, around that time of the Passover Seder, which is not the main thing we have with the barley harvest and the grain. And you might have some early forms of wheat, depends. But the difference between the days is reflected in this manner here, that you have before you could eat of the new grain, because we know Passover only starts at night. In the daytime, then you continue in the Chag HaMatzah, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But the Passover sacrifice, that thing, you eat unleavened bread with that at that particular time. So when you find that if you have a harvest, the wave offering that you find and learn about in Leviticus and everything is done in the daytime. So if you ate unleavened bread, that Pesach Seder, you would be eating grain from the previous year, not new grain. So the new grain you will begin to eat after the wave offering. And then so within that week, you will only be eating new grain for 6 days. For all 7 days you're eating unleavened bread. One from last year's stock, and then the 6 days from the New Year's stock. And also another interesting thing, we know about Shemini Atzeret, which is the 8th day after Sukkot. But here's the only place we have Shvi'i Atzeret, the day after, which is, a solemn assembly, a unique thing in that sense. So those are things you could further discuss with your instructor, because it leads into a whole lot of other areas of counting, especially when you think about going to the book of Joshua, when you have an actual date when they actually crossed over and what they did, and when they actually observed a Pesach. All right, so now on show 14, which is interesting, you have, I'm going to just highlight the whole thing because so much stuff I know I'm not going to touch on, and then try to tie in some things to the Haftarah for this particular season. You have, they're talking about judges and officers in the early part, groves and images that are forbidden, and when you talk about sacrifices, it must have no blemish. Idolaters, should be slain. I talk about controversies to be determined by priests and judges. And it talks about an election of a king. So we're into an election year in America, but it's an election of a king. So do we really elect or select a king? So that's an interesting thing for those to read about. And then the inheritance of the Levites, the priest share of sacrifices, the Levites portion, a prophet is promised. And then we go into the cities of refuge, the slayer who kills with evil intent, and then landmarks not to be removed, true and false witnesses. It goes on to the priest's exaltation to battle, and then it goes into exemption from military service, faith of a vanquished city, what trees may and may not be destroyed. And then the last thing is expiation of an uncertain murder. So, as you see, though it may extends from the 16th chapter, 18th verse, and it goes all the way to the 21st chapter and ends at the 19th verse. And these chapters are not really that long, but the topics are very extensive. So I always tell people that this takes a lot of discussion because there's so many variables, because now you got to act, like an investigator. You got to question certain things and discuss certain things, and then feed off of other people, mostly your teachers and guide, whoever, your leaders, to give you some kind of guide in understanding Torah. So, and I'll get back to the thing about, your leaders and stuff like that later on in this portion. But I'm going to start off with this just a little bit, just to highlight a few things. It says, judges and officers shalt thou make in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, tribe by tribe. And they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Thou shalt not respect person. Neither shalt thou take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. Justice shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. I want to read on that verse. So, show 15 is Judges. We have a whole book that comes after the book of Yehoshua, Joshua, called Shoftim, Book of Judges. And you say, well, I don't read where they had so many cases that they was deliberating over through that whole book. And I read about a lot of, and you read about a lot of problems during that particular time. And then don't we read the book of Shoftim and the book of Judges? Sometimes we don't make the correlation that the book of Ruth is part of the book of Judges, that period of time. All right? And also, a great portion of Shemuel, who happened to be the prophet Samuel, who happened to be the last judge in Israel before a king come up, which was King Saul. So it was over about 300 some odd years, excuse me, from the time, that pretty much from the time of Joshua and the Exodus and stuff, to that we finally got a king. So you had two major leaders, Moses, and then after that you had Joshua, and then you had a bunch of judges. Some of them is named, some of them you read a little bit about they did, but you don't read actual case scenarios, that really determine a lot of their skill set pretty much. But these are leaders. And so a shofet, as we say these days for a judge, is really unique thing. Then it says shotorim, which is officers. Officers is actually the enforcers of a law. So as I often bring out with Isaiah, they say, we ask for the judges of old and counselors as opposed to officers. Officers basically make sure it's carried out and been enforced. So this is what Moses saying right then. But mind you, he was with these people for 40 years. And, it's a stiff-necked people. And some things might have to be, pushed, hard, on them and enforce for them to try to do right. Because if you have judgment and no enforcement of the judgment, then the judgment is antiquated. It means nothing. Because if you have a ruling and you can't enforce the ruling, then the ruling means nothing. So when they think about breaking down the statutes about the 613 laws, statutes, and judgments, they count judges and officers as one because they both, without one, the other one can't function, and the other one complements, the officers complement what the judges say, deliberate on. So you must have rules that can be, implemented, carried out. And that's why, they're talking about judges and officers. Now, we know about the qualification. We went through that several times. But it also says rest judgment and have respect to person. So some people say, well, this case too simple. I ain't got to think about it much. And it's a lot of times when we read Torah statements in certain verses, pasukim, that we read in Torah, I'll say, oh, that's simple enough to figure it out. That's not deep. But it's a lot of scenarios, though. So a lot of times when I often, from time to time, rather, I would say, I'm not trying to change people's views point. I'm just trying to give them another point to view. So that means that you could come with other scenarios about the same verse that you read. And then you have to discuss it. And that's why a judge not supposed to say, well, I had a case like that before. Is open, cut, dry, like that. It's not like that. You got to deal with it like it's the first time ever happening before you. And you got to investigate deeply. And then talk about gifts, a bribe. We use the word shakad, which means a bribe, which is, when it's almost like you hiring the judge to rule in your favor. It is hiring the judge to rule in your favor. So that's what a bribe is. And it says, a pervert, the eyes of the wise, righteous. In other words, pervert the words of the righteous. All right, pervert the words of the righteous, blind the eyes of the wise. So a person is usually have some intelligence. That's why he's a judge. And he normally, would be righteous, individual, bunch of, and perhaps, now could it be which one is righteous? It said pervert the words of the righteous. Is it the judge himself. You figure the judge should be righteous. But if you are bribing the judge, and the judge is listening to the individual that's standing before him, and you have a case, so you have two litigants there, and the judge is sitting before you, and you have a case presented before you, and the judge is wise. You figure he's a righteous judge normally, but somebody paid him off. So now, the innocent individual who actually is righteous in his pursuit for justice, whatever he say, you could twist his words around. That's why they have what they call courtroom legal jargon. And they have even road stop legal jargon. And we'll give you a case in point of legal jargon that's used. A police officer or something pull you over, and you say, they ask you, could I search your car? I'm just cutting we to the chase for the sake of argument. So do you mind if I search your car? Do you mind if I search your car? And you say no. So if you say no, that could mean no, I don't mind you searching my car. So and so you got to be careful. You got to say, I do not consent to a search of any kind. All right? I do not consent to a search of any kind. If you say, yes, I mind, say yes. If you just say yes, period, without anything else following, yes. When he asks you, do you mind? You say yes. So then it's confirming again. So one, the negative, no, I don't mind. Yes. And you just said the word yes. So you give them liberty. So it's these word plays that you got to be careful with. And that's what a judge could do to an innocent individual that come to them for justice. And you take the words of the individual and you could twist it around where it means one thing to him, but you present it in a legal manner that's different altogether. That's why people hire a mouthpiece. So, and that's why bribes is really, a malicious thing. And some people just can't, speak for themselves. So, and then I'm going to skip on down just a little bit into the 8th verse of the same chapter, of the 17th chapter. It says, if there arise a matter too hard for thee, and judgment between blood and blood, between plead and plead, between stroke and stroke, even matters of controversy within thy gates, then shalt thou arise and get thee up unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and thou shalt come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judges that shall be in those days, and thou shalt inquire, and they shall declare unto thee the sentence of judgment. And thou shalt do according to the tenets of the sentence which they shall declare unto thee from that place which the Lord shall choose. And thou shalt observe to do according to all that they shall teach thee, according to the law which they shall teach thee, and according to the judgment which they shall tell thee, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not turn aside from the sentence which they shall declare unto thee to the right hand, nor to the left. And the man that doeth presumptuously and not hearkening unto the priest that standeth to minister there before the Lord thy God, or unto the judge, even that man shall die. And thou shalt exterminate the evil from Israel, and all the people shall hear and fear and do no more presumptuously. That's important right there to just figure it out right quick. One of the things that's interesting is that why, if it's a matter of pleading, blood and blood, it mentions about the Kohen, the Kohen Gadol. And it says, he's a Levite. But then you got Levim, other Levites there. And then you got some people that's not from the tribe of Levi that's really well versed in Torah law, understanding law. So, you have the elders, with Moses gave these copies of the law too, in the book from each tribe. So they should be very versed in it. Do it make sense? A lot of times, I can't ask Moses, Aharon. I can't ask, any of the judges of yesteryear how to handle this matter. But yet we got the book, and we go to the book and we look at the book. So now, what I'm actually doing, we all basically use the book as a guideline. But the understanding of the Pasukim in the book, whoever you respect as that individual, then you got to go by what they say in this area. And one of the things I like to bring out in this particular sidra that's pretty unique, that it mentions, now they tell you who you should listen to, but basically it mentions in this whole sidra of Shofatim, it mentioned 7 different titles, classifications of leaders, within the community. It mentions, first of all, we know Shofatim, which is, judges. We mentioned that. Shotarim, officers. We mentioned that. All right. We have, after that, Kohanim, the high priest. And then after that, we had the Levim. We have those as well. All right. We have the Malek, the king. We have a king that's going to be mentioned here. And then we have the Nevi'im, the prophets. And then the last people they mention is Ziknei Ha'ir, the elders of a city. Those are all the 7 classification of people that you look to for certain guidance of your time, in the Tanakh right here that's mentioned in this particular portion. Now, it seems like it's obvious. I'm gonna ask whoever in my time about a certain situation, as opposed to ask. I can't ask Moses. I can't ask any of the people that left and passed. And you got to say, okay, and you got to follow their understanding. Now, Yehudah, and most people say Jephthah, and in the book of Judges, he judged a certain portion of Israel. But how smart was he? When he said the first thing come out of his house, he gonna offer up to the Creator. When we talk about criteria right here in this particular portion, but he was a judge of that time, a leadership of that time, and you had to respect them at that time. Now, suppose the judge says something that is wrong, other than saying they're serving the Creator, serving another God. We know that goes, another tangent. But he give you some advice that is not correct. He makes a decision that you say, but I don't agree with it at all. And you got to carry out the decision. Then the weight falls on his head. The weight actually falls on his head in that sense, in that area there. So, you might, have leaders in various congregations and teachers, how they became a leader in their various congregations around their circles. People look up to them as leadership guys and say they have intelligence. Now, one of the things that we're supposed to focus on, you're always supposed to have somebody, with some knowledge and stuff that you seek, information from. So you always look for a person that's intellectual, to have knowledge. But then you might have an individual that, that might be your spiritual, guidance. And the thing is that they got to have intelligence to be, itself as well. But you might not be as versed in Torah as, say, the leader or the judge that you look to for information to guide. But then you have the other side, which is a spiritual guide. Sometimes your parents, might be endowed with a certain spiritual, influence in your life. A father may be, or an uncle, or just another elder or brother in the community that lived life a certain length of time. And they might, there might be, where you like their spirit, you like the way they mannerism, so you gravitate and learn a certain type of patience, a certain type of navigation through life to them. And also, you're going to have an individual that's very intellectual in Torah, the teachers, so your leaders. They necessarily, supposed to be, and it might not be your spiritual leader and guide, but they, in that sense, but they have those authority for us knowing certain things in the book. But an individual on the sideline. So normally, traditionally, you have one person you look to for intellectual knowledge and one person you look for spiritual guide. Case in point, I will share with you. Moses would definitely know more law than Aharon, his older brother. Definitely know more law. Understand the law far better. Moses was a unique individual, and yet he was taught by the Creator himself firsthand for 40 days and 40 nights non-stop. And hence he's called the lawgiver. Aharon, though, was more of a spiritual guide for your person's life. You could identify him. Now, he knew a lot. He was intelligent. But he would be more of the person to say, well, okay, I need somebody that has more of a tender and sympathetic ear to give me some spiritual guide to see me for me instead of seeing me the way he want me to be. And that's the difference between a guy that says, all right, you need to act this way, and another one that says, I see you and I know what you need to develop in yourself. So those things there, where you gotta have a leader that's very intellectual, but he may not be a good spiritual guide for you. And then sometimes you might outgrow a certain individual in one area or another. And that's okay, but you always should have something like that in your life. We talk about the election of a king. I'm just going to move a little bit faster. The election of a king. All right. And it goes on to say that when thou come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are round about me, thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not put a foreigner over thee who is not thy brother. All right, so it's like America. You can't be a nationalized citizen in America and become president of the United States. You must have been born in America. And then some of the other parameters like 10 years, but basically, born in America in order to be eligible to run for president of the United States, with age and, criteria, required as well. And live in America for 10 years. That's pretty much it. So, but the Creator said he would choose. You want to set one up, but the Creator said, look, I'm going to say, I'm going to be over my people. And he gives a certain type of requirement for the king, and tell him what he can't do. And only basically, one thing that he should do, and that's dealing with the laws, and in the 18th verse, it says, and it shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandments to the right hand or to the left hand, or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. So, most people wouldn't want that job. They said, well, what do I really gain? It don't say what we gain. But one of the things we know that a king, and we're not just going back to antiquity, he owns certain things. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but since I'm speaking on it, I'm just going to highlight some points, and you can move on, and you could further discuss it with your teachers. One of the things is this, that when it comes to giving up, an offering to the Creator, we say, like the Psalm said, all things are thine, of thy own we give thee. We are entrusted, with certain things, and we possess other things, even though everything belongs to God, including ourselves. But some things we actually own. Now, when we give a percent, to the Creator, tithes to the Creator, that is not what we possess. That belongs to Him. Well, I just spoke about the tithes. I don't have time to go over that. But any tithes we give to the Creator, that is His. It was never ours to possess. It was His altogether from the beginning. So now what we have left, we actually possess. So that's why it's a blessing over those things that we actually possess. The nefesh, the soul, that is not ours to possess. It's something that we are entrusted with. So you can never possess your soul. That belongs to the Creator. That's why I say all souls are mine. That's something that belongs to Him solely. You are entrusted with that. Now, when you give to the poor, all right, now it's two things that's different. One, you leave certain things in corners of your field because that is those people automatically. So that belongs to them. But when you take from, say, that stuff that you said that the Creator allowed you to keep within your personage and give out, then that was something that was yours. That was something that's yours that don't belong to the poor. There's certain things belong to the poor and certain things don't belong to the poor. Corners of the field belong to the poor. The tithes belong to the Creator, and the Levites and everything like that. But certain things that you give beyond that, that was your possession. When you invite somebody to your house for a meal, and you show the hospitality of Abraham, then they should be thanking the host, because he gave part of his possessions. And I don't have time to go deep into it right now, but when you analyze those different portions of tithes and things I brought out at the last sit down and talk, you see that certain things is yours that you possess outright. And those that follow a certain halakhic view, when you study about certain blessings that you say, there's some blessings that actually, some things you say that, that really you possess, and there's some things you don't possess at all in your blessings. So, but just leave that out for people that's looking to, study and follow a halakhic tradition. I'm gonna move straight ahead on another area here, and it talks about, we're talking about the inheritance of the Levites. The prophet is promised. All right, now in the Torah, I'm going to just bring this point out here. In the Torah, when it says, "When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee," in the 9th verse of the 18th chapter, "thou shalt not learn to do after the abomination of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son, his daughter to pass through the fire, one that uses divination, a soothsayer, or an enchanter, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or one that consulted a ghost or a familiar spirit, or a necromancer. For whosoever doeth these things is an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God is driving them out from before thee. Thou shalt be wholehearted with the Lord thy God, for these nations that are to be dispossessed hearken unto soothsayers, unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee to do so. A prophet will the Lord thy God raise up unto thee from the midst of thee, and thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken, according to all that thou didst desire of the Lord thy God in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, Let me not hear again the voice of the Lord thy God, my God, neither let me see this great fire anymore, lest that I die not. And the Lord said unto me, They have well said that which they have spoken. And I raised them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And so now, one of the things that say the prophet is supposed to be like unto Moses. I know it said they haven't risen, at the end of the Deuteronomy, they haven't risen yet out of Israel, a prophet like unto Moses. The writer let it know that as of then, as of yet, it's still waiting. But we read here, though the Chumash and the Tanakh don't really speak in depth and elaborate strong on a messianic period. As far as the Messiah, who the Messiah is. It don't elaborate deeply on that. You have oral traditions and stuff like that speaks on it. You might as some prophets allude to it, but it's not really clear cut. But we know, and most people go to Balak, the Sitra Balak, where Balaam speaks about a star, of Jacob. Those are like say cloudy areas of discussion, I would say, and it's not really clear cut what the Messiah, that they're talking in detail on the Messiah. Though they're talking about, we know that somebody gonna come in the very end. We know that the prophet spoke about that, but all the various details of the individual, it's not really clear cut in that area. Though we know we're gonna be a seed of David around. All right, so I'm just going to 21st just to move on a little bit and watch my time. But the prophet that shall speak and word presumptions in my name, that I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, that same prophet shall die. And if thou shalt say in thy heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord hath spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. Now, I just want to focus on this area here. We read about a prophet in the 13th chapter, a prophet, a dreamer of dreamers already. And he give you a sign of wonder, and the sign of wonder come to pass. But that prophet never said that this is what God said. That we read in the Deuteronomy. Where here, in the early part, but here it says, this guy came in the name of God. The Creator actually talked to me and told me some things. And this is, what's going to go down. So now, if it don't go down like that, then, that's a death penalty, because he took God's name in vain, and God will not hold you guiltless of taking his name in vain. So these are some of the things we learned here. But I just want to move on to a little bit the city of refuge. We have it, and I think I'll finish off with it. With a couple of things in the city of refuge and witnesses. It says, when the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations whose land the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall thus deceive them, and thou dost deceive them, and dwell in their cities, and in their houses, thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee in the midst of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. Thou shalt prepare thee the way, and divide the borders of thy land, which the Lord thy God causes thee to inherit, unto 3 parts, that every manslayer may flee thither. And this is the case of a manslayer, that shall flee thither and live. Whosoever killeth his neighbor unaware, and hateth him not in time past, as when a man goes into the forest with his neighbor to hew wood, and his hand fetch a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slippeth from the helve, and lighteth upon his neighbor that he die. He shall flee unto one of these cities and live, lest the adventure of blood pursue the manslayer while his heart is hot, and overtake him, because the way is long, and smite him mortally, whereas he was not deserving of death, insomuch as he hated not his neighbor, hated not him in the time past. All right. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing in that just to save time, but one of the things that we must look at in reference to that particular area is that the city of refuge, Makalah, all right, but it's just called cities, 3 cities. And it's when a person slays somebody, and they didn't hate them intentionally in the past, and they got to flee. But one of the things that brings out a lot of scenarios here is that they call the guy who's looking to kill him, or the group of people, whoever it is, Goel Hadam, the Redeemer of blood. He said, well, the Redeemer of blood, and at a time in society where most people at that time in society figure if you slay somebody or kill somebody in their family, it was their natural born right to have a blood vengeance, blood feud, and come after you. So when we talk about the city, and it said flee, in other words, don't stand around trying to explain it. The book gives you about the guy don't want to hear anything. In the society of that time, they don't want to hear anything while they're hot, until you go straight to their city. Now we know when you get to the city, we know we're going to be, he's going to be hurried out. Now, when we talk about the city of refuge, that's the more common term. The book just says cities, 3 cities set aside for the manslayer. You notice the term he's called a murderer, and they don't even call Cain a murderer in Genesis, but they call this guy a murderer. Cain was made supposed to be a fugitive and a vagabond. Everybody wanted to slay him. Well, everybody's related too. back then, but I'm just showing some scenarios between the Genesis story that everybody's related. Habel, Abel was related, to everybody on the planet, just like Cain related to everybody on the planet. This is an in-house fight. So Cain flees. So, but God never called him a murderer until he said he slain his brother. But this guy here is called a murderer. So this is a further discussion amongst your teachers in that sense. Why that term for him? And they didn't use that for the first individual, Cain. And Cain went and built the city and dedicated it to somebody else. But he still was supposed to be a fugitive. This guy here is a fugitive from a certain type of family. But it's like Coca-Livia, when we play Coca-Livia and say, I'm on base. Well, he made the base by getting to that particular city. And one of the things that when this case here and he's proven innocent, not hating the individual, not innocent, I should say, but proving that he didn't hate the individual in times past, then he got to stay there till the high priest died. Now, one of the things is the mental stress that we look at here. And the mental stress is that this individual is in a city and he got to stay there till the high priest of that time died. And this is a Levitical city. So now, just to talk about it, and I'm just going to just highlight certain things. That here it is, he caused one family to mourn because of his inattention, his ignorance, that he caused somebody to lose their life. That's why he in the city in the first place. So he caused that family to mourn. And yet, on his exit, somebody else going to be mourning for the high priest. Isn't that ironic? That his entrance caused a family to mourn, and his exit will bring about mourning for a particular family. And then the Levites is related to the high priest anyway, by some fashion or form. But yet this guy could go out free. So is that the reason why they call him a murderer? Because he flee when somebody dies, and he only free because of somebody died. And he's not alone by himself. Anybody that made it to that city, now everybody in the city is not, running there because, mind you, it's a city of Levites. But anybody that made it to those particular cities, everybody, are you praying for the welfare of the high priest? Or are you praying to get back to your family? Family could visit you, but you can never leave. Or you're under a death sentence. So this is a real traumatic thing to think about in those areas there. And, you could use further discussion on that matter about the sensitivity of this here particular junction in our law. All right. And the things that it caused. And we talk about witnesses, false witnesses. And I'm just going to leave that and maybe visit another time. But one of the things to talk about false witnesses and use the thing lex talionis, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. All right, this is what they call the Roman term lex talionis, the law of the claw, vengeance, which we interpret as compensation. Now, the last thing I'm going to speak on, I had to get to, it's just so much stuff here. But one of the things I had to focus on, as before I go into the Haftarah, is that a lot of times when we talk about anointing, because we were talking about the prophets, and we talk about in the king, and talking about, we know the king is anointed. We know that the Kohanim is anointed. All right, the Kohanim is anointed with oil. And never say nowhere in scriptures what the king is anointed with. We only learn that from an oral interpretation. It just says he's anointed, but it never says with what. We only find oral interpretation about, well, it's obvious they should use the same oil that the priest was anointed with. But the priest is anointed a certain way, and when he's anointed a certain way, it's a whole nother level compared to the way the king is anointed. And they don't even say how is the king anointed. And we read how a Kohen is anointed. And since we don't say oil there, and I'm just bringing these things out here, that because a lot of times we just pretty much conjecturalize, I should say, that oil is used for the anointing of the king, especially olive oil, which has unique properties and everything. It comes for a lot of reasons, which I don't have no problem with that. I just like to point out every now and then some things that we take for granted that's not actually literally written in scripture, but it's basically from an oral interpretation in that manner. And that's why I'm saying things are not always clear cut. When you read the scriptures, that's why you got to always find yourself a teacher in those particular areas there. Because as we read earlier, we read about the atrocities that those 7 nations did with the promiscuities of relationships. But we just read here in this particular portion that it was put out because of soothsayers, necromancers, and all that kind of stuff. They said that's why they was dispossessed. This was Moses telling us. So, well, what about all that erotic sex stuff they was doing? And that's one of the things that people always allude to Sodom and Gomorrah. They say, oh, well, they was, had this erotic thing going on where men want to deal with men. But it was all kind of atrocity, violence, wickedness that was going on that the Creator hated, and how they approach one another. So this is when the Creator moved into the area and talk about wiping them out and saying these people is in a holy land where you have to have a certain type of standard in God's land. So therefore they dispossessed because of that. And it said this was Moses, our teacher, is bringing to us at this point in time. All right, so when we talk about battles, we present peace to an individual. I mean, it's strange, but we'll talk about it another time. That how you going to present peace and you got the sword out in your hand? I mean, how that look? It's like I walk up to a dude, I got my gun pulled out, cocked open, it's over the hammer's back. And I said, look here, now I'm going to offer you peace, man, but you got to move on out, Did you come intentionally to give me some peace at that time? So those are some of the things, to consider, why would we look for peace? And if we can, if they say, okay, we'll seek peace, then when we told not to make a covenant with those people, so then is the peace going to be real or not? So there's a lot of things to discuss in those areas there concerning the individual, and before I go into the Haftarah reading, I'm going to turn and just show you a correlation between the Haftarah. So I just want to, we had the 4th Haftarah, but I'm going to bring out some things in reference to the Haftarah that is usually not always in a chronological order. So, so when we first was dealing with, we had 7 Haftarahs of comfort, and and then we had the 7 Haftarahs of comfort here. That when we think about the first one was at Canaan, all right, and then we was Isaiah 40. Then we went to Equev, which is Isaiah 49, 14th verse, and then we went to Re'eh, last time, which is the 54th chapter, Isaiah, and 11th verse. And this week we're going to be hitting the 51st chapter, 12th verse of Isaiah, and then after that, the next week, for Shofar team, that's what for next week for when we talk about Kitazeh, Kitazeh, we're dealing with 54th chapter, first verse. Then after that, we're dealing with the key tabo, the 60th chapter, the first verse. And then we go on into the last one, Nezabim and YAH, which is the 7th Haftarah comfort, which is 61:10. So why is it that we're going somewhere in a chronological order and they change? And why they change it? For the message in each one of them. So I'm just going to go for the first one. I'm just going to read the one line from all 7. So you can relax, Chief. Read one line from all 7 before I go to the Haftarah for the day. All right. So the first one, I'm going to go back to the 40th chapter of Isaiah and first verse. So the 40th chapter, first verse says, comfort ye, my people, said the Lord. Bid Jerusalem take heart, and proclaim unto her, that her time of service is accomplished. All right. Her guilt is paid off. All right. So now that's the first one. Comfort ye, my people, said the Lord. The first verse of the 40th chapter. So why the comfort? This is after the Babylonian captivity. Saying you need some kind of comfort. All right. So now let's go to the 49th chapter. And it's and just taking one the first verse of the 49th chapter. One verse. 49th chapter, the 14th verse, where we started last time. It says, but Zion said, the Lord hath forsaken me. The Lord hath forgotten me. All right. The prophet came. God told the prophet, comfort my people. And this the people replied to the prophet. You have forsaken me. You've forgotten me. I'm in a situation right now. I'm in this situation. So this is one of the things, that they bring that now. So now, after we leave this particular portion, all right, now let's go to the third, which is the fourth, what we did last week, in the third part, the 54th chapter, the 11th verse. All right. So in the 11th verse, it said, O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest, and not comforted, behold, I will set my stones in fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires. All right. The Creator let you know through the prophet, I can see that you feel in a certain way. I can see that right now, that you feel in a certain way. But, nevertheless, I'm still trying to, I'm still concerning you. All right. So now when we go into this one, I'm just going to read the first verse here, and then I'm going to keep going to. I'm going to try to do all 7, but when I read this particular one, 51st chapter, the 12th verse, and it says, the 12th verse, even I, am He that comfort you. I use the word Anoki, which is a rare term. And it's used twice. And you find that in the Decalogue there, which I'll come back and explain a little later. The Creator identifying that this is, what I'm doing here for you. And then we get to the next one that we're coming up next week, the first verse. And the next one, which is the 60th chapter, first verse. And all of it's going to be in Isaiah. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. So this is where it's saying, though you might feel, that you was forsaken, though I'm letting you know that I'm the same one. I'm the same individual. I still have this love for you. I'm telling you to rise up. Get up. From your condition. And then as we go further, into the 7th. Up to come to 61 and 10, it says, I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God. He hath clothed me with garments of salvation. For the king, which is righteousness, clothes me with things of righteousness. So those 7 brings out a message. If you read every verse, the first beginning of every verse of those Haftarah, you come out with a divine message that reflects in history. So now, in this one we're going to be dealing with today, the 51st chapter. That's why when they compiled the Haftarahs of comfort, they wanted to present a message of God to the people of Israel as they're coming out of a situation of 70 years of captivity. And we also are supposed to be strengthened in the message during this particular season as we get ready to approach those days of Yom Kippur and make a repentance in our life and a change in our life. So just remember that. So I know I went fast over it. You could do a little bit more, give it a little more thought with your teachers and friends, and just read the first one from each one of those Haftarahs that's coming up, and then elaborate and see what you can find in history that reflect. Because the word that we deal with now, and as we get on, and this particular portion here, 51 and 12. So if you're ready, Chief, you could start there.
Here we go. We're in the book of Isaiah. Let's look at. Switch this up over here. We're in the book of Isaiah, chapter 51, starting from verse 12. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
It reads, I, even I, am he that comforteth you. Let's look at. Who art thou that thou art afraid of man that shall die, and of the Son of Man that shall be made as grass?
Right there. All right, right then and there. Like I said earlier, use the term anoki. To say I in Hebrew, you just say ani. That's it, ani. Why anoki? Because that's where, when he met with us at Mount Sinai, that he used that very same term, anoki. And we could dissect the meaning of, ani and then ki itself. We could dissect it and come up with a lot of different things, which I'm not going to do right now. But when that term is first introduced to us, anoki, we find that we got the commandments of God. Those seven matters that we're supposed to do. 5 pros and 5 negatives that we got at Mount Sinai. It was, and that's what the covenant. Those 10 matters supposed to be written on the tablets of stone, which is a covenant. So it's like a marriage, or like a union. This is our covenant. This is our, like a requirement of what I expect of you, what you expect of me from me. This is going to be our relationship. So this is like a real tight relationship. So it brings back then when we refuse to be comfort and everything like that there. Yeah, he's saying, look, I'm coming back, I'm coming back double. Because you only use the I know key one time in the Decalogue. But I'm coming back double. And he started to tell you about, I brought you out of a situation before. And you coming out of a situation again. So it's going to be double that love that I had before, for you. When it goes on to say, why would you be afraid of a man? Because a lot of us fear man more than God, which is, almost everybody sometime in their life will say, man, I don't want to get involved with so and so and so and so because of the situation here. I might have to, I know I'm gonna need some outside help, but nothing wrong with outside help, but we depend on the outside help of another individual, more so the outside help coming from the Creator himself. All right, continue.
Verse 13, it reads, and hast forgotten Yehudah thy maker, that stretched forth the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth, and fearest continually all the day because of the fury of the oppressor, as he maketh ready to destroy. And where is the fury of the oppressor?
Hold it right there. All right. Now, stretched out the heavens. Isaiah used this a lot, and other prophets used this a lot. But it's saying, look, you forgot what I did? You forgot how I made this whole thing? You worried about this individual over here? No, and he ain't gonna live that long. You see him aging from the time you've been there. He ain't the same young guy that he was when you first got up in there. So the Creator letting them know, you really are not paying attention to what I'm able to do. All right. Continue.
Verse 14, it reads, he that is bent down shall speedily be loosed, and he shall not go down dying into the pit, neither shall his bread fail.
All right, right then and there. All right. We didn't have anything when we was in the wilderness, and we didn't come there with a lot of provisions. And all our needs were met throughout a place where we didn't harvest not one thing for 40 years. The best we gathered, the gathering was the manna that came daily, and then when we grab some water from time to time. But it is that, the Creator let you know that you ain't got to worry. But he goes on the 15th verse, and what he said, what?
Verse 15 reads, for I am Yehudah thy God, who stirreth up the sea, that the waves thereof roar. Yehovah of hosts is his name. And I have put my words in thy mouth, and have covered thee in the shadow of my hand, that I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and say unto Zion, thou art my people. All
right, right then and there. The Creator already let you know, that some of his power that he has and what he had done already. And if you can't find comfort in that, because you still thinking and pondering about, let me think about some of the things that God's through the prophet that God did do in the past. But while we still thinking, we dreaming, all right? We're still contemplating. We're not making moves. You know what I mean? We're not really conscious of what's going on. So what's the next verse say?
Reads, awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, that has drunk at the hand of Yehovah the cup of his fury, that has drunken the beaker, even the cup of staggering, and drained it.
Okay, hold right there. All right, right then and there. So wake up, snap out of it. Snap out of it. I'm telling you something about how great I am, how much I can do for you, and you still trying to give it some deep thought. And that's what the prophet said. Don't get lost in the thought. Get into the present. Get into the reality. This is what's going on now. But as we move on, continue.
Verse 18 reads, there is none to guide her among all the sons whom she hath brought forth. Neither is there any that taketh her by the hand of all the sons that she hath brought up. These two things are befallen thee. Who shall bemoan thee? Desolation and destruction, the famine and the sword. How shall I comfort thee? Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets. As an antelope in a net, they are full of the fury of Yehovah, the rebuke of thy God.
All right, right then and there. All right, so I'm saying here, I know your conditions. I see how it went down. I know all about that. I know about that. And you really act like, hey, I give up. I'm giving up. But what it says here?
Verse 21 reads, therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Thus saith Adonai Yehovah, and thy God that pleadeth the cause of his plead. Behold,
his people. Right. Plead the cause of his people.
Of his people, Sleeker. Cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thy hand the cup of staggering, the beaker, even the cup of my fury. Thou shalt not more drink it again. And thou put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, that have said to thy soul, bow down that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy back as the ground, and as the street to them that go over. All
right, right then and there, he letting you know, I'm saying, look, we're going to have a role reversal here. You know what I mean? You were the head, you became the tail, now you're going to go back to being the head. So this is what it's saying. It's going to be a role reversal. Sometimes when a person down so low, it's like a person that faint. You say, well, okay. Now most people, especially in a fight profession, You hit a guy upside the face, you're supposed to knock him out. But when the guy's knocked out, you slap him upside the face to try to wake him up. Ain't that something strange? You know, you can slap. I know a guy. They call him Hands in Chicago. He was, neighbor guy. But I'll leave it like that. So he's part of a group, and he had this big, oversized hand. There was a guy on my job too that had oversized hands, and he wasn't that big himself. He was a big guy, but he wasn't that big. But his hands were so huge, that we call him Hands. And so they asked the question, why they call you Hands? He said, because I don't knock guys out, I slap them out. That's what he used to say. I don't knock guys out, I slap them out. But yet in this case here, the same hand that could slap a person out, it's the same hand you use to wake a person up. It's almost like your breath. When your hand, you get your finger, you burn your fingers, you blow the hand to try to cool it off. And when you're cold, you blow the hand to try to warm it up. Same breath coming out. But let's go a little bit further and see what's going on here. Because now we're going to talk about a role reversal going on right here. All right.
Isaiah chapter 52, verse 1. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean.
Right there. All right. Before we get to the second verse, it still said what it said earlier. Awake, awake. It keeps saying that you need to snap out of it. I'm talking to you, but you still ain't snapping out of it. You still lost in space. You still thinking of the past, but not the real past that count, and you ain't looking towards the future. But go ahead, the second verse.
Verse 2 reads, shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion.
Keep going.
For thus saith Yehudah, you were sold for naught, and ye shall be redeemed without money.
In other words, right in there, I got no profit off of you. You know what I mean? Ain't like I needed some money that I had to sell you into a situation like that. So therefore you're going to leave without that. I'm not going to bribe them to let you go. Go ahead, the fourth.
4, it reads, for thus saith Adonai Yehudah, my people went down 4 times into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, what do I hear? Saith Yehudah, seeing that my people is taken away for naught. They that rule over them do how, saith Yehudah, and my name continually all the day is blasphemed.
All right there. All right, before we go there. All right. 2 things I want to bring out here. But first thing, let's do with we sojourned in Egypt. All right. When we got down, but the Assyrians, they took the 10 tribes. All right. They took them off. Bam. The northern kingdom went into captivity way before. So now Yehudah finally goes 100-something years later into Babylon. Well, our brothers never came back as a group. What make you think we're making it back as a group? I can't see it happening really like that, though. I hear you talking. I hear all this here, but I'm trying to figure out, did I earn the right to come back? One of the things is that you never earn forgiveness. You never earn that. You request. You might, petition for it. But forgiveness is something that you never, ever earn. The giver of forgiveness takes the loss, once he forgive you. That's why you never mention forgiveness in the scriptures and what we call for us, what people call the Old Testament. You don't find a word where you're ever commanded to forgive, because the forgiver takes the loss. And when we went to Egypt, we went down there because of a circumstance, and we was invited there, and we was treated good for a while. But when we went to Assyria, it wasn't no good treatment from the jump street. It was harsh treatment from the jump street, from the very beginning. So now, what he said here, Let's pick it up so we can finish
Verse
this.
6, it reads, Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I, even he that spoke, behold, here I am.
All right, hold it right there. All right. You know, people always say today, we don't know the name of God. God, in this here particular Haftarah, told you about his name was profane. How the name be profane? They just say, symbolic, allegorical. They know the name of the God. Usually when people beat you in the time, they say, our God beat your God. Our God, was powerful, more powerful than your God. So that was the ancient world. And so the thing is that you develop a lot of customs. I'm not, trying to come down on, certain traditions. I just want to shed light on certain viewpoints concerning those traditions that, according to rabbinic tradition, you have where they don't mention the Yehudah, YAH, the Tetragrammaton. They don't mention it, in that sense. And they figure it's too holy and everything like that. But, and most of that would historically come from where they mostly mention it in historically in the books is because when we go into them captivities, that final captivity, that means that Babylonian captivity, and even before the Babylonian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, is like their God is more powerful than our God. We have the story before the Babylonian captivity with King Hezekiah, when the Assyrians, stood outside, whatever, the gates. And I mean, when it was outside rather, and the enemy was outside, and in that letter that he wrote, it was God's name was put in there, like in a derogatory fashion. Hezekiah took the letter to the house of God and went to sleep. Next thing you know, those that study, read the history, you see what happened to that army of people, because so that's the way people thought in those days, that if I beat you, your God ain't that great, and that's what made Cyrus the Anointed seem unique when he used the term for our God. He said, that he said that he gonna let us go, not that he gonna send the emissaries, but he gonna let us go and build a house for God, in the area there. But let's continue it. That's another story.
Verse 7, it reads, How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messengers of good tidings,
Keep going.
that announceth peace, the harbinger of good tidings,
Keep
that
going.
announceth salvation, that saith unto Zion, Thy God reigneth. Hark, thy watchmen, they lift up the voice, together do they sing, for they shall see eye to eye, Yehovah returning to Zion. Break forth into joy, sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem, for Yehovah hath comforted his people, he hath redeemed Jerusalem. Yehovah hath made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God.
Oh, right there. No, that's a similar term when he said, I brought you out of Egypt with an outstretched arm and a mighty hand. So when you roll up your sleeve, that means you're getting ready to get down for business. This is gonna be a serious thing. I gotta roll my sleeves up here because it's gonna be some vicious stuff going on, some serious stuff going on. And there's a creator talking like that's how strong it's gonna be about it. And that's why I use those similes when they talk about an outstretched arm and a mighty hand coming out of Egypt. But continue.
Verse 11, it reads, Depart ye, go ye out from thence, touch no unclean thing, go ye out of the midst of her, be ye clean, ye that bear the vessels of Yehovah.
Right. That means you're coming back with some real. Now you see, they're coming back with the same things they brought back to Babylon. They come back with the holy vessels. And Ezra. When you talk about Ezra in the Second Commonwealth, man, they coming back with some of the holy vessels. And then one of the things in the book of Ezra said, "You're waiting for somebody that got the Urim and Thummim." He said, "Well, wow, who's taking care of that all that time?" But continue the last verse.
Verse 12, it reads, For ye shall not go out in haste, neither shall ye go by flight, for Yehovah will go before you, and the God of Yisrael will be your rearward. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. In other words, right then and there, most of us was fleeing for freedom. But when you really are free, you ain't got to flee. And that's one of the things is about that. I mean, we march out of Egypt, so you're going to march up out of this. And unlike the first part of Egypt, when the stragglers were getting attacked from the back, you ain't got to worry about that. I got your front and I got your back. This is what the Creator has. So you should be comfortable about that. I know I went kind of fast and a little bit long, but I like people to go back over, some of the things I said and, discuss it with your various leaders and teachers. Any mistakes been my own, I greet you all early. Shalom Aleichem, early Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah. Torah Rabbi Nasik. Praying that the Most High God be with you. May the Most High God be with you all. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hit the like button so that the algorithms will show this to more people. Hallelujah. May the Most High God bless you all. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your